chest fat? Have you ever dealt with anyone who's asked you advice about how to lose chest fat?
Most people struggle to grow a decent chest because they don't know how to press properly. A lot of people think the majority of the calories are burnt inside of the gym, but it's actually outside of the gym. The days when I have the absolute maximum fat burn or calorie burn is when I'm in Ibiza.
What was the nickname people would give you?
Chesty Mike.
Chesty Mike, right? That's
Hopefully the content which I put out can help people to not make the mistakes which I did, and can help, them on their way to whatever their goals and ambitions are. Nice.
Mike, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. Yeah,
It's weird being here and getting interviewed.
I know. I was thinking about that when you asked me what video to make or what video we're gonna make. I was like, you know what? Maybe let's switch roles.
Yeah.
I think you have this culmination of everyone's experience. You've spoken to some of the most interesting people in the world. And especially since your podcast, right, First Things THRST started, you must just have this knowledge from different people. So why not reverse the roles and listen to you for once and see what you have to say. But Mike, in short, number one, a big thank you for welcoming us into your home and having this conversation. I highly encourage you guys to watch Mike's content. One of the few people, number one, in the fitness industry who never sold out, in the sense of, hey, do this gimmicky thing to get Y result. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that's very unique, is that you're able to transition out of fitness and more into a lifestyle brand, and growing again now, going into the podcasting. You seem to have a very strong skill with that. So today we'll be talking about everything fitness, and also just understanding you a little bit more, Mike, like what's ticking. Yeah. What's the thing keeping you moving? But like for the audience, my audience, like a brief history on you.
So, born and bred in Leeds, United Kingdom. Went to school, was there until 18, did pretty good. Managed to get myself off to university in Newcastle. I think I got an A and 2 Bs at A level. Studied economics and business management at Newcastle. Realized probably probably in the first year that university wasn't for me, it wasn't my passion. That was actually when I discovered my passion, which was going to the gym, when I first joined up like a proper gym. So 3 years, had great time at university, but was scraped to pass. Got a third, which is basically
like a C.
It's not good. Okay. And it basically doesn't really put you in a great position to get hired by these big companies, which is kind of what my dad had hoped for me to do, and it was kind of what everybody else was doing, because it's very different back then. I was 21 years old. There was no social media. Making money online was like not really a thing. So I did a summer working abroad in Marbella, worked as a club promoter, went back to Newcastle, worked as a club promoter, then managed to somehow end up working in retail at Hollister as a manager. So I was managing the store for a year and a half, which was, I guess it was okay for 21, because at least I had some money coming in, but very quickly it taught me what I didn't want to do with my life, and that was I didn't want to have a boss, didn't want to have to work these fixed hours. It just really restricted my freedom, and it also got in the way with me going to the gym, which that was my thing I cared about most in the day. So my housemate became a personal trainer. I was like, what the hell's a personal trainer? He's like, oh, you go to the gym and you train people and help them get in shape. And I was like, well, I didn't see myself doing that, but at least I get to be in the gym, so I'll do that. Cool. So I transitioned from that job to being a personal trainer. Did that for a solid 6 months. I did think I would get clients quicker than I actually did. Just, I thought, hey, look, I got a six pack. Who wants to work with me? And I had to actually put in a bit of work to go out, network in gyms, speak to friends of friends of friends, to start, building a decent client base. Started bringing some money in. Me and that friend who was a personal trainer, we put our money together and some savings, and we opened our own gym in Newcastle. It wasn't a crazy gym, but it was like it was one of those converted warehouses, which we just kitted out with like rubber mats, mirrors, machines. So we had our own place, and this was in 2013.
So this was like the first business endeavor.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fuck, I made so many mistakes as well. We were two pretty reckless guys. We were just like, we want a gym, let's just go and make it happen. And there was so many things we didn't take into account, like all the these fees that we had to pay, these taxes. And it was just like, we were cowboys, but we made it work, and it was a very interesting learning experience. At one point, I thought I was going to open gyms all over the UK. Like that was the thing at the time. I was like, I want my gyms to be everywhere. And then I kind of fell out of love with it a little bit, because I was all day, every day inside the same gym from 7 in the morning till 9 at night. training my clients and obviously making sure everything was running smoothly. And then it just started to annoy me, and I realized, actually, I don't really want to do this. I just actually want to travel, because whenever I would travel, my income would just go like, because I wasn't training my clients. I had an all right Instagram at that point, but I'd never ventured into YouTube because I hated being on camera. And then I realized, like, if I want to have a decent career in this industry, I just have to be better at speaking and have a presence online, particularly with YouTube, so people can actually get a feel for what it is that I do and what I know and how I can help them. So then I just went on a mission to grow my YouTube channel. I moved from Newcastle to London, walked away from the gym. And then, that was the start of the online career, the online coaching, and then everything. I didn't really look back after that.
Was that gym where you recorded all your how-to videos?
Yeah. So because that was how I practiced speaking on front of the camera. It's like, I didn't like speaking in front of other people, so I'd wait till everybody left the gym, and I would just put the camera on the tripod and then just film my videos. And then I got better at doing it. And then obviously it was just like, hang on, I have this empty gym. Why the hell do I not take advantage of it? And I kind of knew that I wasn't always going to have that gym. Like, I kind of knew, right, I'm probably going to make my move in about 6 months. So I was like, it's now or never. So I just kind of relentlessly just pumped out those videos. To begin with, it was very random. I didn't really know which direction I was going in. But then I started to notice when I was making the educational videos, people liked that. So I was like, okay, this is the thing which I need to focus on and double down on.
So the gym served as your catapulting into what we call like fitness fame, right? Like those were the first million views that you're getting with your how-to videos.
Yeah, it was a common mistakes people make when training shoulders. That was the first video to hit 100K.
Okay.
And it was really random because my videos were just kind of hitting around 5 to 10K, and then this one popped off. And when the video does pop off, which you've experienced yourself, it's just like, whoa, like subscribers go up, or like the emails go up, like your sales go up as well. So it's pretty cool.
And if I'm not mistaken, you are well known for like your chest.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like what was the nickname people would give you?
Chesty Mike.
Chesty Mike, right? That's how people knew I'd read your comments, especially in that time. And like this is the beautiful thing about YouTube. It's a lottery check, and you can cash one in every day, and you never know who's watching your videos. So those were one of the first pieces of content I was introduced to, and in my mind, I was like, here's a gym bro giving some advice, right? And I think that's a good segue, right? Chesty Mike. A lot of clients of mine and viewers of mine always ask, and my topics are always on fat loss, like chest fat. Have you ever dealt with anyone who's asked you advice about how to lose chest fat, or what comes to your mind, right? Being that your chest is what people recognize you for. Any tips you'd give to people in terms of like who are dealing with gyno or pseudo gynecomastia? What tips would you give to people?
I think it all comes down to the fundamental basics. Most people struggle to grow a decent chest because they don't know how to press properly. Usually down to the fact that whenever they do press, they're lifting too heavy. They can't keep their shoulders pinned back. And then as they do press, the tension moves away from the pec, goes onto the front delt, onto the tricep. And it's just like you're getting this really messy, sets and repetitions where you're not really engaging the chest as well as you could do. So that's the most difficult thing, because you're trying to almost like close your eyes and feel something in the dark, something you've never felt before. Like to really feel a muscle lengthen and then to contract and just feel it work. Like that's what you want to be going for every single muscle group that you train. But it's I can tell someone to do something, but they have to go off and do it themselves and feel it. And for those people who have a big ego or they don't have much patience, they're like, oh well, I don't want to lift a really light weight to try and figure it out and practice. I just want to go straight into the deep end and lift as heavy as possible. So form, technique, absolute number one thing you have to master. And then once you have mastered that, then you can start to progressively overload with heavier weights. And there's no real, magic exercises. I see people doing all these crazy variations of like pressing. It's just like you go back to doing the basic pressing movements. Like
maybe 5 that you'd suggest?
Yeah. So I mean, even before I was a member of a legit gym, the foundation of my physique was built in my garage. So in this garage in my house when I was growing up as a teenager, I had an adjustable bench, I had dumbbells that were adjustable with those metal plates that were like
The clinks.
yeah. Which they would. I managed to get them up to 40 kilograms.
Oh.
But I don't think the actual dumbbell itself was supposed to support that weight. So every time I was doing overhead press, I was like, "This fucking thing's gonna fall on me." So it was always a risk. But yeah, I was just doing flat pressing, incline pressing, dumbbell flies, push-ups, and then dips where I would lean forward and try and hit my like the lower pec whenever I was doing dips. It was those 5 exercises. And then even to this day, predominantly, I like to do incline pressing with a barbell, but a dumbbell, maybe some sort of a machine press, as long as it like starts off wide and then it comes close together at the top.
Got it.
And then maybe some sort of fly variation. And that's pretty much it.
That's some sound advice, man. Because I think what happens is you get into the gym and like this benching is like the way to like swing your balls around and show you're the biggest guy. And you see people say, hey, I want to get to 2 plates. Now everyone can bench 3 plates, right?
Yeah.
So you get in there and your main idea is like, okay, let me hit this objective versus like, okay, let me really develop the chest. So I'm in agreement with you with all those 3 exercises. And in terms of the fat loss of that aspect, I mean, for you, like, it just seems like you're year round.
I'll be honest, I'll say I've been very lucky with my genetics.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been a fat person. I mean, even when there's a picture of me like flexing when I was 10, and you could see I had like a 6-pack. But I was extremely active as a teenager. Like, every day I was doing something. You know, at one point I was practicing for rugby, training for my club, but then also the school. And this was 1 to 2 hours every single day, like doing all these drills, doing all these sprints, and then playing games on a Saturday and a Sunday. So the calorie expenditure as a teenager was very high. When the rugby season was over, I was doing athletics. I was even doing cross country. I was like literally doing everything. And then in terms of calorie intake, I had a sweet tooth, but I was never going too crazy with the things which I was eating. I didn't really understand the very basics of nutrition until I started my PT course.
Okay.
That is when I started to actually track calories for the first time. And I started to understand, okay, you know, I was stuck at 88 kilograms for ages. I didn't understand why I couldn't gain weight. It's because I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't eating enough protein. Like, the macros are all off. So the moment I understood what was in the foods which I was eating, that was when my physique just like continued to progress even further. And then even to this day, I guess the fact that I've been able to maintain a fairly steady condition throughout the year, first of all, is I'm always training. Like, I don't have weeks off ever. Like, the most important thing of my day is training. It's what I love. It's what I like to do.
Till today?
Till today, yeah. Like, I literally love it. And then I never go through periods of bulking. Throughout the majority of the first few years of lifting, there's been a calorie surplus, but it's been very gradual. And the fact that I've kept that calorie surplus very gradual has meant that it's continued me to enable me to grow, but minimizing the amount of fat gain that I would accumulate in the process. And then it's got to a point where you kind of reach your natural limit. And then at that point, it's just really just maintaining throughout that. Maybe you can go through a period of like wanting to be a little bit bigger, but once you get to a decent size, like, I've had no interest in being bigger. I chose not to go down the route of competing.
Bodybuilding.
I'm sure if I did go down, my physique would have been crazy, but that would have meant, okay, you're going to have to take quite a bit of gear to go down this route. So I was like, I'm pretty content with how big I am, especially when it comes to women. Women don't even want you to be that big in the first place. So as long as you look aesthetic, that's the most important thing. So I've never really gone through phases of bulking. It's just been a matter of the majority of the time I'm at maintenance point. Body fat is probably around 12%. My body fat is higher than most people think it is. People seem to think that I'm like shredded all the time, but I'm carrying quite a bit of fat. I guess I've been lucky with where I store it. A lot on the thighs, a lot on the back, but my front side doesn't hold as much. That's why my abs always look leaner. So yeah, I guess you could say, I mean, this is something I do for a living, so I understand my body very well.
Yeah.
I understand how my body changes based on the types of foods that I eat, the quantity of the foods that I eat, how I respond from varying durations of sleep, different types of training. And I know now, it's almost like I can do the absolute bare minimum to look the very best. Everything that I do is super efficient.
Got it. And if you could say now, like subjectively, where do you think your body fat percentage is?
I would still say probably around 12.
Around 12?
Yeah.
And for the audience watching, obviously everyone's very different. What would you say are the top 5, if you can, or top 10 things you'd say someone needs to do, no matter what, to be able to achieve that 10, 12% body fat look?
Well, this is something which was quite interesting when I was in Japan. So when I'm here in Dubai, I'm not really walking a whole lot. When I went to Japan, my step count was 15,000 to 20,000 steps a day, right? So that's so much walking, super active. Training frequency, I was probably training 1 session less than usual, so 4 sessions a week.
Okay.
And I was very flexible with what I was eating. I was a little bit concerned because I was like, I'm eating quite a lot of like the shit here, like the macros are way off, like surely I'm going to get fat. And it's funny, during that trip, I actually started to get a little bit leaner. So the most important thing is just general movement of your body. A lot of people think the majority of the calories are burnt inside of the gym, but it's actually outside of the gym, okay? For those people who want to maximize fat burn, just go out, walk, move, be active. It's funny, like when the days when I have the absolute maximum fat burn or calorie burn, it's when I'm in Ibiza.
Okay.
Because in Ibiza, I wouldn't rent a car. So I'd be like walking around everywhere throughout the day, walking along the beach. Step count is already high. I go to the gym, and then you go out for food. You go to like some bar, you're like dancing, you're moving your body. Then you might go to a club after you're dancing, you're moving your body. So from like almost 8 p.m. up until 3, 4 a.m., your body is like moving like crazy. And just a couple of days or a week of being in Ibiza, like that is when I'm at my absolute leanest. And it's not even intentional. It's just a byproduct of me moving my body so much. So number one thing, people just have to get up off their ass and just move more, walk more. If they don't have the opportunity to walk, then they're gonna have to force themselves to go on a treadmill or some sort of cardio machine and just walk, do steady state cardio for half an hour, 45 minutes. You don't have to, like, if you did it every single day, your body composition is going to improve. You obviously don't necessarily need to do that to begin with, but gradually building that up over a certain period of time whilst you're doing the cut is going to have an effect of burning more calories and improving your body composition. Understanding what's in the food that you're eating, so actually tracking. So most people, they're like, oh, I eat healthy, you know, I'll probably get around like 150 grams of protein or whatever. It's like, those people who are guessing are usually wrong. They don't have a clue. Like, if they actually started tracking accurately, they would realize like, oh fuck, like I'm really not getting enough protein in, or I'm actually over consuming here. So this is something which I do from time to time. I order a lot of my food in, and I notice that when I don't track, my body composition isn't as good as it usually is. And then I go back to my calorie tracker and I just enter everything in, and I'm like, fuck, my fats are like way higher than they should be.
Higher.
And like if I'm not eating 4 meals a day, it's only 3 meals a day, protein is going to be under. So consistently doing that means that my body composition is not going to be as good as it could be. So tracking your food, you don't necessarily have to track every single day, but let's say, for example, we track 5 out of 7 days. That's better than not having a clue at all. And then you get to the point where you're so good at it that you can just look at food and guess. I can do that now.
Yeah.
Resistance training, or at least following some sort of structured program. I mean, the fact that we're like, when you're a coach, you've been doing it for years, you can go to the gym, you can wing it, you can improvise and do a good session. But whenever I'm following a proper strict plan, my results are always better, because it's forcing me, first of all, to do the sessions and the exercises I might not want to do. Like if it says, today, you got to do Bulgarian split squats with dumbbells, you're like, fuck me. So you'll do it. And then you have the previous week's records where you're like, right, okay, this is what I did last week, so this week we need to improve upon it somehow. It needs to be more intense. Maybe the mind-muscle connections needs to be better. Maybe I do a couple extra reps, or we put the weight up. Sleep, extremely important,
one.
huge one, because even I notice if I've been sleeping bad, I start to look like really watery. I'm more stressed out. Cortisol's higher. If cortisol's higher, it's going to be harder for you to burn body fat. And then
adhere.
the sessions are not going to be as good. You're not going to get a pump. And you just make worse choices. They're the four things. On top of that, I can't really think of anything else. What's to do with fat loss?
I mean, I think for me, now if I think back, and for context, I did a show, Came Pro. I think the biggest thing that most people don't talk about, and maybe they don't want to put too much light on, is caffeine.
Oh, yeah.
I've noticed that there's a direct correlation to how lean you are and the amount of caffeine that you're consuming. And this is just like across the board.
You think that's because it suppressed your appetite? Or?
Yeah. Like in a big part, it suppresses your appetite and it gives you energy, which after like about a month, you can feel the difference. Or let's say, again, it depends on where you are in terms of body fat. If you're like at 40%, you have a surplus of energy because that's what that fat is. But in relation to getting to 12%, your body starts noticing, hey, we don't have these reserves that we're used to. And with everybody that I've even like analyzed online, you'll see that their caffeine consumption is quite high. So for the appetite suppressing and for that increase, you may even just notice you're taking pre-workout more often because you're not getting the consistent pumps in the gym that you normally do, or that you just don't want to go to the gym and you're dreading it, which is all like an indication of lack of energy. So I would say caffeine in terms of fat loss is just, though, it's the fat burner, right? It's what people took caffeine and then they called it a sexy thing, fat burner. They packaged it in a sexy packet and they started selling it. So I would say caffeine.
I guess it makes sense because if you do consume caffeine, it gives you a buzz, it's probably going to increase the likelihood of you actually getting up off your ass and doing something. Yeah, for sure. I have a bit of a weird, I mean, I love caffeine, I love my coffee, but I've learned now that pre-workouts are too strong for me. If I have it, I mean, even in the morning, some of the chemicals in there, like they keep me from falling asleep naturally.
Yes.
So I'm sensitive in that aspect, and I don't like to get into the habit of having them too frequently because I don't believe it's to be blasting 2 scoops of that a day or 3 scoops of that a day. I don't think it's good for your body.
Agreed.
And then I don't know how much your body can build up a tolerance to it. Some people say, oh, you can't, but then some people say it does. Like, I don't know. I like to not have to rely upon something to give me a good workout.
I'm the same with creatine.
But unfortunately, I'm extremely reliant upon my music.
Yeah.
Like, if I try and train without music, it's fucking hard.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think with all the 5 points you mentioned, I'm absolutely on the same page with you. One thing, just with what I do with my clients, the first skill that I teach them is to walk more. So something I do is every month I'll gamify and I'll say, hey, I'm going to give you X amount of money, whoever gets the most amount of steps. So people go from, hey, I can't do 8,000 to like 15,000 is my daily. I have this doctor on my team and it got really competitive. He got as far as 50,000 steps in a day. So he was in the ER. So
how did he do that?
I don't know. I guess he had like a 24-hour shift.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so it was just like...
He was just moving. So it started with the one guy was a soccer coach. So he posted that he got 40,000. And I wrote in the group, cool, I'm going to beat that tomorrow so I can become the coach again because you guys are like one-upping me. And then he came with 50,000. And that week he dropped like 4 pounds. Now, I'm not saying to the audience, go and do 50,000 steps. What I'm saying is gamify your walking.
Yeah.
And that's why like the fitness trackers have its role. Tracking as well, the best analogies, like you know how much money's coming in and leaving your account with your bank account. Why won't you do that with the food you put into your body?
It's even with this, I try and gamify my sleep.
Right.
I'm trying to like just get the best score that I possibly can. But I've understood that, okay, if it was a bad sleep and it tells me, the data tells me that that wasn't very good, I'm not going to let it affect my day, which I know some people they have these devices, they give it a go for like a couple of weeks and then they're just like, I had to get rid of it because it was messing with my head.
Yes.
Like if it said that you got a poor recovery, then they think, oh, well, what does that mean? I shouldn't go to the gym today?
Yeah.
I didn't get like much restorative sleep, so maybe I should just not do anything challenging today. Like it can be weird in that sense. You just have to see it as a little bit of guidance.
Yes.
But don't, this could say I had like a terrible sleep and bad recovery. I could still go train legs and really have a good session. But usually it would make more sense to probably have the leg session after you've had a better sleep. Do something a little bit less taxing today.
Yeah.
So this has helped me to, kind of switch around the order when I train, and then also has really, really pushed me away from alcohol.
Something I deeply want to touch on, but I agree with you. I think for Whoop, if they ever watch this video, I think that's something they should consider, because a lot of my clients said that the Whoop got to their head, and I think there's like this correlation between the psychological aspects of stepping on a weight scale and feeling a certain way, and with the trackers maybe being very harsh with the advice somehow. But yeah, one thing that I would add, you should definitely try this. Get it for your place. It's a 8 Sleep. Have you ever heard of it?
Is it a mattress?
It's the mattress that has like air conditioner coming through.
Would you know what I've done? Because I have air conditioning. I can get the room cool.
Okay.
But my biggest problem now, whenever I travel, is they give you these really thick duvets, and I'm like literally a radiator. I give off heat, so I go under the duvet, and then it's just I wake up in the night like sweating.
Yes.
So what I had to do is I got this. I replaced the duvet. So this duvet is still like, it's a comfortable, relatively thick duvet, but it's got climate control in it. So it allows heat to pass through it. So it's comfortable, but now I don't get too hot. So the mattress thing, I've heard about it, but I've never tried it.
You won't want to sleep anywhere else after you'll be like, hey, let's travel, and you're gonna think of it. Now I got this suggestion from James Smith. I watched his video on the review, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna again. It is pricey. It's like a $3,000 investment. But I was like, okay, sleep is everything to me. So it's one of the best things. But it does exactly that. What I like about it particularly is that it will warm up the bed to not till where you're sweating, but it'll warm it up slightly for your body to notice that something's changed and for you to wake up naturally, which is super important as well with sleep.
So it's like an alarm clock, but a very gradual thing.
Life-changing. I highly recommend, obviously not sponsored or whatever, but it's a life-changing.
You have that going off at the same time every morning?
Yeah, so it does it every morning, and on top of that, it tracks your sleep. Okay. So it tracks everything. It's incredible. And in terms of like the gamifying, it tracks my wife's on one side. It will track her sleep.
She's got it super hot on her side. You've got a nice cold on your side.
Exactly. So I hate what you said as well, in the sense of like, I hate sweating in bed. It's the worst. Yeah. It's the worst. So yeah, it's something you should definitely try. Like, you'll do that, and then you probably won't want to travel.
I don't want to travel as much anymore. Yeah. Because the mattresses are never up to scratch.
Yeah, man. But that on sleep. But just to switch gears a bit, Mike, we were talking about a little bit of lifestyle. In my opinion, I've been in the industry a long time, and not to talk about like negative stuff, but how you've been someone who's been seen a lot by people in the industry, and you've received your fair share of hate. Even myself, I've always been with my brand as a Dr. Michael Diamonds. A doctor has this brand that they can't do this or that. They're the perfect person.
It's like human.
Right. It's so hard. How have you dealt with it over the years? Like, what are the things you say to yourself when you read a comment or someone says something? Like, what thought process does Mike Thurston go through to say, okay, cool, I'm gonna move forward and just do my thing?
I think you have to be pretty clear with realizing whether it's a weird way of looking at constructive criticism, because there are sometimes people have left a comment, it's been negative, but I realize, oh fuck, they're actually right. Like, reading these comments has actually helped me to improve.
Okay. With
it being that either the type of content which I'm making, or just the things that I say, or whatever that I might be doing. There's the trolls as well. So a troll comment is usually something that's just like, well, it's a fucking troll. Like, they're in a bad place. Like, let them just deal with whatever problems they're having. So trying to clarify which is which. But right now, I think I honestly just don't look anymore. I think I'm at most peace when I film a piece of content, put out some content, and it's there. It's out, close the door, move forward. But I still like to know the feedback. So I'll have my staff they go through the comments, and then they give me some overall feedback. If there's negative feedback, they give me it softly.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you should, maybe improve upon this. But sometimes when I'm really, really proud of a piece of content, then I love to go through the comments.
Yeah.
Because usually the comments are pretty good. Like if it's a really good vlog, the comments are going to be really good. But sometimes if it's a piece of content which I'm not particularly proud of, or it's a little bit salesy, there's going to be some pushback. Like anytime I put out like a VSL for masterminds, which I've done in the past, or the launch of my course, like the launch of the course video was the most negative thing that I'd received. And I was just like, holy shit.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you feel like you put your heart into a product and people received it that way? Why?
I think just because there's already a negative. I guess it depends what type of product it is. But let's say, for example, a course or a video course or an info product. People will just associate it with all the other info products out there. And there are a lot of people who've put some of these products out and they have been a little bit on the scammy side, overpriced, not really delivering a huge amount of value. So they just assume that, it's going to be like that. With those types of things as well, the price point is a little bit higher. So something which does cost a little bit more usually is out of quite a lot of people's price range. And I think at the end of the day, they want something which they can buy into and which they can afford. But I still find it very confusing because I've got to the point now where I don't do sponsored ads anymore. Like I get loads of offers from these companies and brands who they want to pay upwards 10 grand more, sometimes $15,000 just to put it in a video, which is like pretty decent money for like 60 seconds work.
So few people's salaries.
Yeah, but I choose not to do that because I don't want to be pushing all these random products to my viewers. And I'd much rather push a product or a service which is mine or I'm proud of and I've built. So, I don't understand why people hate so much on something which you have put a lot of time and effort into create.
Yeah.
But I think that's just the way it's always going to be.
Yeah, man. I mean, for what it's worth, in the same position, I think that you shouldn't care, one. And I think for the audience, the only person's opinion who really matters is your own and the way you feel. And I've found being in the industry, 10 years, it's like people say things and they don't even remember what they said like a few months later. Like I've seen comments of the same person in the time where I was like, it really got in my head. I hated how it would affect my behavior. I was like, why do I feel like someone I've never met is changing me, who I am fundamentally? And I do the same thing as you. I just don't look because it's just not a place I want to put energy into. But I think that the people who do buy in are your tribe.
Yeah.
Like they're truly your tribe. And eventually, like even the people who don't buy in are going to try it. And I've kind of experienced that. I've seen, and I watch a lot of podcasts of like, when the iPhone first came out, people were like, why are they charging $799 for it? Are they insane? Because they were like competing with Nokia, competing with Motorola, who were selling like $200 phones. And now everyone has an iPhone.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of validity in that. Like the way I look at like my health science brand is, it's like the Louis Vuitton of fitness. And yes, at some point, not everyone can do it, but you'll bring a product over time, right? Sometimes like the money you gain isn't just to put it in your pocket. You're also building things so that you can help people into the future. Yeah. So I think with you, Mike, you have so much value to deliver to the world that I feel sometimes you don't get to do.
Yeah.
Because you think you're a good person and you think of other people. I think you should just like think of you more, and guys like me who'll support you, like be like, this is what I want to see from Mike.
Well, it's like even with a lot of people love the vlogs now, particularly the travel vlogs.
Right.
So I've just been in Japan for like almost 3 weeks. And I think people just forget that a trip like that is not free.
Right.
Like I'm going there, I'm having to look after my team. I've got my video guy there. I've got my photographer there. I mean, yeah, it's true. The photographer is not exactly like helping towards the YouTube content, but I have to take time out of my day to do all these things, to pay for all of these things. Like that trip was a big investment. Yeah, I had fun. Yeah, it was new experiences, but I could have done that at a fraction of the price if I just went there and, did it without the cameras and everything.
Yeah.
So I hope that when people do watch these videos that I haven't put a lot of time and effort into, that like they appreciate it. And it's like, that's why I kind of need to make money so I can continue to do these things.
I mean, if you don't mind, like, what did that trip cost you, like roughly, taking your whole team and trying to like document an experience for them? And also I want to add, I was chatting to Mike behind the scenes. When we spoke about it, he said he mainly wanted to do it to bring something new to the channel. So you did it with their intention in mind.
Yeah.
Like, how much did you invest in that?
I want to show the world what Japan is like, in my eyes.
And you did that with Dubai and look like what that did.
Yeah. So I would probably say, I mean, maybe £20,000.
Yeah. It's not free. I mean, you also need to look at it as a business. Like we don't live off of love.
Yeah.
But with that, I also wanted to ask Mike, if you could go back, right? Let's reverse a little back. You're back in your gym, right? You're doing your PT thing. You've now interviewed some of the biggest names in the industry, from Andrew Tate, Iman Ghazi. You had Chris Williamson on here. Now knowing what you know, right? I'm going to delete all your subs that you have right now.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
What would you do? What would you do differently? Like, what approach would you be in fitness? Would you go straight business?
I think I would have done a lot of the things I did. I would have done the same, but I would have started sooner and been a lot quicker with how I did things. So obviously everyone now understands the importance of attention, living the attention economy. If I'd known that back then, I would have started the YouTube channel way sooner. I procrastinated for about 2 years before I started that. I know doing like the YouTube channel, it is not necessarily for everybody. Like it's a lot harder for some people compared to others.
Right.
But I should have, for me, like obviously I've had success with it, but it could have happened a lot sooner. Doing the one-to-one training in person with my clients is something I needed to do. Like that gave me the experience,
right,
and the education and almost the authority to be able to talk about it and teach people about it. So I needed to do that, but I didn't need to be doing it for as long as I did. Like I had probably like 5 or 6 years of training clients. I could have just gone hard for like a year or two and learned what I needed to learn, because after a certain point in time, it's kind of like the learning curve was rapid and then it kind of just levels off.
Diminishing return.
Yeah. I probably would not have gone to university. As enjoyable as it was, I didn't really learn anything. I should have gone back to like when I was 17, 18 and just thrown everything into learning about the human body, training, and probably even marketing as well, because I think I got to the point where I learned a lot, but I just didn't know how to market my products and services. My mindset was just, well, let's just try and get as much attention and followers as possible, and hopefully, that people will sign up to it. And then just understanding the art of like building something, recurring revenue, earning money in your sleep. Because at one point when I was doing online coaching, it was very intensive of my time.
Yeah.
So I remember a point where I had it was like 40 clients, and I was calling each of them every week, and I was doing all of their nutrition plans, their training plans. They had access to my WhatsApp, and I was just like, well, it was really intense. The money was good, but it was just like something which I couldn't scale. So if I'd gone back, all that time and effort could have been put into building a coaching brand where I would just hire other coaches, train them up, and then I could delegate all the clients to them. I've got a few friends who are killing it at the moment doing that. Not necessarily something I would probably be doing now, but I think back then it could have been something which would have worked quite well.
Cool. You would have stayed in the fitness industry?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
What is that you want now? Because from just having this conversation with you, a few things I can tell is that there is this inherent nomadic life to you. It seems like you don't like being in one place and doing the same thing. I see that theme pop up a lot more. I'm sure you've thought about this in some sort of capacity, like what's life like for you 5 years from now? Is there like baby Chesties walking around? And like what's the goal? What's the thought?
Yeah, I think there will be. I mean, right now I've come out of a 2-year relationship. So start of this year was single. I'm in a great position right now. I think a lot of guys, would really like to be in my position. So I want to enjoy it. Next couple of years, I'm just going to make the most of the freedom which I have, the lack of responsibility which I have in terms of family. Of course, I've got responsibilities, but there's really anything I can do now. So I want to capitalize on my potential, the potential which I have in the position that I'm in. And I think I'm kind of moving away from it being completely selfish and just, doing everything for me. The things which I get the greatest level of satisfaction from is actually having an impact on other people and either guiding them or helping them or inspiring them in some way, shape or form. It's one of the reasons why I did the podcast. And I don't need to do the podcast. The podcast does not make me money. I don't even take on sponsors for it. I do the podcast because it's like I'm giving advice to... I see myself when I was younger. There was just so many things I didn't understand, which I had to learn for myself. Hopefully the content which I put out can help people to not make the mistakes which I did, and can help, them on their way to whatever their goals and ambitions are. And yeah, like you said, I don't like doing the same thing or being in the same place for too long. I like having the base, but I love an adventure. I love new experiences. And I really want to be in a position when I'm older, like when I'm on my deathbed or whenever that's going to be, where I look back on my life and I'll just be like, that was a good life.
Yeah.
Like that, I'm happy with that life which I lived.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And you talked a bit about lifestyle, and we mentioned it a bit earlier, but I'm very curious. I remember there was a time in the videos where alcohol and partying was the thing. I mean, I guess it still happens. What's your take with alcohol now? Do you drink? Do you not drink at all?
Yeah, I barely drink now. I think the last time I had quite a lot to drink was probably New Year's Eve. Okay. And that was it. I like the feeling of being drunk quite a lot, because I'm a bit more lively, as I'm just like an extra version of myself. But it's just the next day, like I feel so bad. It's not even a day. It's usually like it could be 2 or 3 days before I go back to, my full capacity of what it is that I'm doing. And I think the problem is now, like I can't afford to be like that. I can't afford to have those days. Like with the podcast, with the YouTube, like I have to be quick, I have to be sharp, and I have to make a lot more frequent big decisions. I can't make big decisions when I'm hungover. Yeah. Like it just hurts my head, and I'm like, I'll deal with it tomorrow. So yeah, it's weird, because I look at some people and they can somehow process it, and they're like functioning alcoholics where they can just crack on with their day as normal. And I guess it's a blessing in disguise, because if I was like that, I probably would drink a lot more. And whenever you do drink more, it just definitely doesn't do you any favors for your physique. That's like one of the worst things you can do if your goal is to maximize your strength, size, and minimize body fat. So every so often I might have a drink here and there. Like yesterday, I was out for a friend's birthday. I had a glass of champagne, but that was it. And the big blowouts, they will happen, but less frequently, and usually when I'm content with how my life is going. So if I've achieved some goals, things are going well, and then maybe the next couple of days are not that busy. We go out, celebrate, have a good time, and then it's back to work again, hitting those new goals.
Yeah, I think it's too expensive to be, especially for you, and if you're a CEO or wanting to be a CEO, it gets too expensive, because a day or 2 days or 3 days of your time, right, is worth a lot. It can cost you in the tens of thousands. So that's interesting.
It's like stressing me out. It makes me anxious.
Yeah. It's been, I think 18 months for me since my last drink, but it was the same thing. When I realized it was over for me was when the recovery was taking about a week. Yeah. Where I felt like, okay, I'm back to normal. Yeah. And it was just too much regret, because I felt guilty, and I felt at this point you're responsible for people, right? You're just not, and you kind of said this, you're not just responsible for Mike Thurston anymore. You're responsible for your entire team. They'll text you and be like, hey, what's up? What's happening? Yeah. And you can't be on your B game through that. Yeah.
I think it's a lot more accepted now to not drink compared to, 10 years ago. I mean, being brought up in the UK, if you said, oh, you weren't drinking 10, 15 years ago, people were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah. Like, drink.
Weirdo.
And if you don't drink, then like you're not part of the crew. Yeah. But now I think it's just becoming a lot more accepted. Like if you don't want to drink, people are like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. From my experience with like alcohol overall, even with the people socially and the clients that I work with. So a lot of the people that I work with are very, very busy professionals. So I understand how it does play a role into like social being, right? People want you to do something together, but it's really just finding that balance so that one glass of champagne or 2 glasses of like a vodka or whatever, and then just calling it a night. But I guess that also just comes in time with maturity.
Yeah.
Right. So I've just noticed there's this increase in age, and then just better decision making, and you think about it more. It's probably because your body's not metabolizing it as well as it was in your teens.
But you know what's weird as well? This has happened a lot recently. If I've been on a night out and I'm in, it could be like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm in a club, and I'm just like, I don't really want to be here anymore. If we rewind to like my mid-20s or even when I was 30, I remember being in a club and I was like, yes, this is like where I want to be. Like this makes me happy. Now when I do it, it doesn't really make me happy anymore. And I think particularly since doing the podcast, like I've had some pretty deep and meaningful conversations with people, like really smart, intelligent people who are killing it. And then you're in the club and you get these drunk idiots just like chewing your ear off, having the like literally the most shallow, pointless conversation, shouting at each other. I'm like, this is not stimulating. Like there's now like a standard of the type of conversation which I want to have. Otherwise, it's just like, what's the point of this conversation? So it's usually what I do now. If there is an event or a party, I'll go for a couple hours, show my face, mingle with a few people, and then like I'm out. I'm usually the first person to leave. I go unannounced. You just disappear.
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, just go to the toilet.
Gone. I think that's a brilliant segue to this question I've had, Mike. You've spoken to some of the most incredible people who live very, very interesting lives. For a bit of context, I met you about 6 months ago at a mastermind on a yacht. We got to chat a bit more. I'm not going to say anybody's name. Who stands out to you in the conversations you've had that you found was just like mind-blowing or interesting?
I think one which I did earlier this week, Mo Gaudat.
Okay.
So for people who don't know, I think he's in his 50s or 60s now, but he's such a wise individual. Okay. He's incredibly knowledgeable about AI. He's written a book. I've got 2 books there, one on AI, one on happiness. And he was on Diary of a CEO. I think his episode got like the 3rd highest views.
Oh, wow.
So it was one of those weird ones where he was actually late. He'd turn up at 9:30 in the evening, and I'm like on my good routine. Like I usually go to sleep at like, I want to be in bed by 10:30. So I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a bit of a drag because like I'm tired. But anyway, shows up like full of energy, and like immediately I'm just like super engaged. And he would not stop talking about all this like crazy stuff for about 2.5 hours. And at the end of that, I was like, oh my God. So that episode is going to be out in 2 or 3 weeks. But I think there has been a lot of guests where I've walked away and I start rethinking things, even subconsciously. Like just there's certain things which people have said that have made me think differently, and I've no doubt altered the path which I'm taking, which is one of the reasons why I love it, because it forces me to not only go off and do research about this person, so it's like kind of forcing you to do some homework. Yeah. You learn in the process of doing the homework. You listen to podcasts or read books that you wouldn't have read beforehand. And then it's kind of challenging you to have a conversation with someone who's like, much further ahead than you are, smarter than you are, has all this experience that you don't yet have. And it's just, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Anyone else that comes to mind?
Luke Belmars was a classic one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the Matrix.
Yeah. That was a good one. Daniel Priestley with business. That was a very good one. He's extremely switched on when it comes to business. And I like Chris Williamson. It's always a pleasure to speak to him. Yeah.
If you could write on a list for this person to come and have a podcast with right now, maybe someone you feel you may not be able to reach now, is there anyone who comes to mind?
50 Cent.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Out of everyone, 50 Cent. Why 50 Cent?
Just 'cause I love the guy. He's such a fascinating guy. He's I'm sure it will happen one day.
There we go.
But I think just because I grew up listening to his music since I was like 13 years old. So the amount of hours where his music has been in my head is pretty crazy. Obviously, I was a fan of G and everything. But the way he's transitioned himself from a musician, moving into business, you know, he's lived a life where he's done so many different things. And just his approach to doing things, how he has no fear. He's just funny, charismatic. He's just like someone who I would really like to meet. Of course, I think that's like a realistic one. There's some people who would be like amazing to speak to, like Leonardo DiCaprio, people like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, the likelihood of that happening, I feel like, is a lot slimmer. I have an extremely ambitious list, but it's almost like I don't want them just yet. Like, I want to develop my skills as an interviewer, so that when the time comes, I'm like ready for it, and it's going to be a great interview. So I don't mind putting in a bit of the groundwork to begin with. You know, not every guest is going to blow my mind. Not every guest is going to like get hundreds of thousands of views. But it's almost like it's just the work that is required for me to do to, in the future, have some of these really big guests. But it's pretty crazy. Like, the fourth guest was Tristan Tate. And that's like, that was like over 2 million views. And that was, I'm very lucky because obviously strategically I'd already built a relationship with those guys. So he knew who I was. And it's funny how everyone always they wanted Andrew. And I was like, Tristan's like hilarious and he's like equally as fascinating. So I haven't had Andrew on the podcast yet. I was like, let me get Tristan on first.
Yeah, I love that one. That was like a banger, right, of a podcast. Just the way he thinks.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Mike, I think, to be respectful of your time. How long have you been in Dubai?
It's 4.5 years now.
4.5 years. What do you think of Dubai, man? Now it's changed a lot. I come here every 6 months, and it's a different place. You discover new buildings that never existed, and you also just bump into people who have now moved here. How do you feel Dubai's changed since when you came, and what it's like now?
I think when I first came, it was 2018, and I remember back then it was a lot more conservative. So you felt more as though you were in a Middle Eastern country.
Muslim country.
Now you feel like you're in more of a kind of Western country. But then you're like, there's some prayers going off. You're like, oh yeah, we're like in a Muslim country still.
Right.
So I feel like there's the rules are more relaxed than they used to be. There's a hell of a lot of people here, particularly guys, who just are on a mission to push forward with their life and their career. A lot of people say Dubai doesn't have a culture. And I'm like, well, I feel like it does. It's created its own culture of like this modern city where it's like this very fast, exciting land of entrepreneurs and business people, like successful people who want to progress and push forward. So I like it in that sense because it's just an amazing place to network. And for people who are struggling, they don't really know where they want to go, or maybe they live in a smaller town or village which is quite remote. I definitely would say to them, moving to where the action is, where the money is a great thing to do. It doesn't have to be Dubai. Like, Dubai is not perfect, but for me, like, one of the key things which stood out to me is I want to be somewhere where it's got a good climate, where it's sunny. Okay, Dubai is like sunny every day. There's a beach on my doorstep. Very important for me, like literally down there.
Crazy view.
So like the sun and the beach are things that makes me happy. The gym facilities, very good here. And then it's just got to the point where they've made it such a livable place, like so convenient. One of the most convenient places where everything just works. If there's a problem, they fix it fast. And I guess the only downside is, I guess more people have come here than they anticipated, and the traffic's a bit terrible at the moment.
Do you ever see yourself leaving?
Only if there comes a place which is more suitable for me at a given point in time. So right now, you know, not having kids and living the life which I'm currently living, it's a great place. But when I start to raise a family, is Dubai going to be the place where I do that? I don't know. Maybe I might want to retreat somewhere like Spain and have a bit more of a chilled lifestyle. But I do feel like there's never going to be a place where I'm like, okay, this is where I live and I'm going to be for the rest of my life. I ideally want to have a few properties in different locations, or just like places which I can move to and from based on what mood I'm in and what the climate's like. Of course, when I have kids, you're a little bit more restricted with that, because you have to, think about what school are they going to go to, what's going to be best for them. And then when they are in school, you're probably going to need to stay in that specific place. But I'm intrigued to see what happens when, Saudi starts really pushing with its game plan. And I don't know when they're kicking off with that, like 2030. Like if Saudi can watch what Dubai have done and prevent making the mistakes which Dubai has made and do a better job than what they've done here, maybe Saudi's the place.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, if, like I was here, I wasn't the first person to come here by all means, but I was definitely one of the, in terms of the influencer world and fitness people, I was one of the first people that got here.
Yeah.
I think Larry was the only one who was here before me.
It was like peak COVID too.
Yeah. It was even before that. So to be somewhere to begin with and to get the head start, that certainly could be very advantageous. So we'll see what happens. But it's one of the reasons why I don't like to get too anchored into one place.
Got it.
That's why I like that, having that freedom to just pick up my things and just be like, right, I'm out. I'm going to go here now. I like having that mobility.
Amazing. Mike, it's been such a pleasure. I want to ask you one thing just to leave the audience with, and more so a question for you. You could fast forward, I call it, and Alex Hermosi calls it, I got this from him, the grandfather frame, right? Is think of yourself as a grandfather with gray hair, and you've now achieved all of this wisdom. What would you say to yourself now, right, back in this moment as a grandfather? And we'll leave it there. To yourself.
I would probably say keep doing what you're doing, but as much as possible, try and appreciate the present. Because I know for a fact I'll look back at this current point in time and be like, this is the life. Like, these are the golden years. So appreciate it. Like, you're feeling your best, you're looking your best, like you're in a position where you can do whatever you want. Nothing's holding you back. Like, just enjoy it. I think a lot of people today, they get too caught up with the work and the chasing the money and the numbers and all of this, that they forget to actually just be content and be happy and to actually enjoy life. So I think it's one of my advantages and my strengths is my ability to appreciate that. Like, I have a very good work-life balance. Sometimes when I feel like I'm doing too much work, like, let me just go to Japan for 3 weeks, or let me just go and do this. Like, I think I've understood it's important to really enjoy your life. Of course, there needs to be balance, but don't just work your life away, because then when you're older, you do have loads of money, you're just like, fuck, I didn't really live a great life. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Appreciate the moment and enjoy it.
That's awesome. I appreciate you, my friend. It
No
was
worries,
such
man.
an awesome conversation. For all of you, if you don't know Mike, and I'm sure you do, but if you don't, I am putting all of Mike's details in the description below. Subscribe to his YouTube channel, Instagram page, quality content. I also put the podcast there as well, which is what I enjoy watching now more. Well, all of the content's good, but you just get so much more on the podcast because it's long form.
Yeah.
A big thank you, my friend. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Leave it with a gentle thumbs up if you enjoyed this style, and comment down below if you guys want to see more of these. Cheers.